first about the differences between the genders. There are certainly some physiological differences between the genders you need to be aware of, and for your own training as well as if you're a personal trainer for clients. I'll talk about body fat differences. I'll talk about the differences in muscle mass between males and females, where they store body fat and where we store body fat as guys. Difference in twitch, fast twitch and slow twitch between the genders and what that does to your program design. I'll then talk about the strength differences, what's the difference between males and females regarding strength. What happens to women when they do weights? I'm going to talk about what happens to them when they do weights, in terms of bone responses, in terms of muscle responses, in terms of fat responses, and also, interesting enough, in terms of self-concept, because there are some really good improvements in self-esteem and self-concept with weight training. We'll talk about injury prevention concerns, what ladies need to be concerned about to reduce their risk of injury when they start weight training program. And then I'll talk about the program design, what you have to put in your training programs to get the best results for women. So let's get into it. Now this was a quote that came back in 1986 from a guy named Olaf Astrand, one of the first exercise physiologists. He said that we're back to the evolutionary fact that we're not born equal, which is pretty straight. For the ultimate survival of an offspring, it's certainly an advantage that female and male counterparts are at least partly different. So obviously there are some gender differences between males and females. What are some of them? Now there are some physiological differences between the genders you need to be aware of. First one's about body fat amount. Now obviously you didn't turn up this course to learn that females have more body fat than males, but they do. That's a physiological difference between the genders. So there's a difference in body fat. Interesting though, it's often about the distribution of body fat. But if you're going to do weight training for females, you have to do compound exercises, for bone density especially. You can't get caught up doing just bicep curls or lateral raises or front raises. The classic problem with those exercises, they don't compress the bones enough. If you're doing a front raise as an exercise, you don't get enough direct compression through the long axis of the bone and the weight isn't heavy enough. Whereas if you're doing a shoulder press, you can at least get a lot more weight down through that bone. So shoulder presses, chest presses, squats, lunges, things where there's more compression through the bones will be a better response, will give you a better bone response than the other isolation exercises. So pick good exercises. The other thing we sometimes forget about with weight training for women, and especially bone responses, is it stops the falls. How often do we see a 70, 80-year-old female that falls over and fractures their hip? Now, if we prevent the fall, we prevent the fracture. Now, here's what most people do. Most females, and as they get older, they don't do any strength training, and they don't lift heavy enough weight or move fast enough to recruit fast twitch fibres. Because to recruit fast twitch fibres, you need either weight or you need speed. A couple of things you've got to be careful of with females. Because of their broader pelvis, they tend to have a problem with the knees sometimes turning in. It's called malicious malalignment is the term we use in physio. Now, why is that the case? The broader pelvis brings them in around the knees. They can sometimes have externally rotated tibias, and sometimes if that's combined with flat feet, it gives you that inclination, the body tends to turn inwards. And you've all seen females do it. You might have seen them doing a squat, and they'll get that internal rotation of the knee. Or they'll do a lunge, and the knee will collapse in that way. So there's some alignment issues regarding females just because of their broader pelvis, especially if they have flat feet and external rotated tibias. Now, what do you need to do about in your training program to be careful of? As I said, just be aware about knee problems in your training program. If you're doing lunges and squats, make sure you try and keep your knee tracking in line with about your second toe, which is one next to your big toe. If you notice your knee collapsing inways, you need to keep it out across a bit further. So keep your knee in line with your second toe. Be careful too if you're doing lunges and squats, not to get your knee too far in front of your foot. So if you're lunging, you plant your foot and lunge that way. The further your knee goes in front of your foot, it's going to increase pressure through your knee. Don't get caught up in doing lots and lots of reps for females to burn weight, to burn fat, because again, that's still a carbohydrate burning activity. You're probably better off doing some higher intensity cardio work and then doing some higher intensity weights to increase and maintain their muscle mass. Because you're kind of doing a bit of both. You know what I'm saying? You're kind of doing a cardio burning activity, but it's a weight training base, almost like a pump class, which we'll talk about in a second. The best exercise, and again, pick 5 to 6 compound exercises. You don't need many.
Can I just go back to the sets?
Yeah.
Do you see the difference between 3 lots of 8 and 1 lot of 24?
Ooh, yes, yeah. Massive difference. Question is, and how many times they do that? Good question, because you say to someone, do 3 lots of 8 for me. They'll get on the machine, they'll do 8, rest for maybe 3 seconds. do another set of 8. A couple of seconds rest and do another set of 8. And they say that's 3 sets of 8. No, it's not. That's, as you said, that's one set of 24. There's a massive difference between that, doing a heavier weight, doing 8 repetitions, failing at the 9th rep, putting it back, resting for 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and then going again for your heavier set of 8. There's a massive difference between those two programs. So in terms of what we're trying to get is to get the set over and done with intensity, have a rest period, come back and do it again. Otherwise, you must do sets of 24. Your circuit training, basically. 5 to 6 comp and exercise, do it. What are the best exercises? I've already told you. Squats, lunges, deadlifts. Doing things where there's lots of muscle groups in action. Lunges work really well. Squats, benches, push-ups, pull-downs, wide, close, shoulder presses, upright rows. Okay? There's a multitude of things. I'm into cables at the moment. Doing a lot of standing cable machine work. So doing a cable chest press. So doing things where you have to stand up to support yourself. And don't just do your rows on the ground, do a standing cable row. So doing rows like that where you're standing and you're getting lots more muscle mass in activation rather than sitting on the ground doing that.